Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Powerless Podcast. In this episode, I talked to Caleb, who I actually did not get the last name of, who is one of the singers and one of the guitar players, as well as the primary lyricist of the band Hey, I Love You, out of Montana, originally from Montana, signed to Lonely Ghost Records. We break down their album that is out now called Hey, I Loathe You. It's an 11-track album. We talk a lot about the songwriting process, how collaborative the experience is and their process is as a band overall. What each of the songs is about lyrically, where they came from as far as the instrumentation goes, and the songwriting and everything in between. It was absolutely great to sit down with Caleb and talk to him about everything that went into this. Is their first release in 2 years. He went into a little bit of why that is as well. And overall, it was just a really, really great conversation. Had never spoken to Caleb before, but was someone that I instantly loved having, an hour and 15 plus minute conversation with. And it's a absolutely fantastic record. If you're listening to this on Spotify, YouTube, anywhere you're getting your podcasts, all of the links to the album will be below. You can find the band on socials at Hey ILY Forever on Instagram and Twitter. And I just really encourage people after listening to this to check out the whole record. It's really eclectic, really dynamic, and I was really impressed with all the different sounds and influences and the instrumental chops that could be found within this record from Hey, I Love You. Before we get into the episode, I just hope that everyone can make sure to check out the socials and get in contact with me at thepowerlesspod everywhere. You can check that on the linktree below as well, on Instagram. Still using Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I just said Instagram twice. Whatever. TikTok was the one I was looking for. Also kind of going more focused on Blue Sky, trying to get away from the hellscape that is Twitter or X, the Everything app, and go over there. So definitely check out there as well. That'll be the powerlesspod.bsky.social. I think you can just search the Powerless Pod and it'll come up. So find me everywhere there. Message me if you want to be on the show. I talk to bands, I talk to producers, I talk to artists, I talk to journalists, I talk to political pundits, everything in between. So if you've got a piece you want to go over, if you've got an album you want to promote, if you've just got a lot to say both about music, the world, politics, whatever, definitely hit me up at the Powerless Pod on all socials. Hit me up at thepowerlesspod@gmail.com, and all that good stuff. And again, all of that will be in the notes below. I've been writing a lot more articles as well for the New Metal Agenda, also on Substack. That's linked in the link tree below as well. So definitely just go there, find all the things. I'm doing a bunch of stuff, and I would love to be in contact with you. The last thing I'm going to go over here, as I was doing in the past, and it kind of felt at times maybe a bit, chauvinistic or exploitative in a little way. So I stopped doing it because I didn't want to give off the perception that I was making things about me in regard to what is, in my view, and many others, the most dire humanitarian crisis, the most dire situation in the world right now, which is the occupied Gaza territory for Palestinians, as Israel continues its bombardment and continues its genocide in Gaza, as well as it expands to Lebanon. They're bombing in Syria. They're threatening an all-out war with Iran, and it's just things are getting really, really bleak. I don't get really overly personal on this show, but this past week I didn't put out an episode because my grandmother passed away after a long and fulfilling life, and it was sad but not tragic. And all I could think about as I was going to the wake, going to the funeral, speaking with my cousins that I don't get to see that often, speaking with family that you don't see that often, and kind of having this, positive experience in grief. All I could think about was how fortunate I am and my loved ones are to be able to process that, to be able to go through, a life experience of losing someone you love, and having the support and having the time and having, a ceremony and having, if you're religious, having a religious ceremony for who has passed away, who's moved on, who's died. And all I could think about were the tens of thousands, or in my view, over 100,000 Palestinians that have not been able to do that, or hundreds of thousands of Palestinians that have not been able to do that for their loved ones. You're seeing videos of people burning to death. You're seeing videos of people, of children carrying smaller children because they have no family left, carrying them for miles barefoot. You're seeing, I covered a story just the other day of a Gaza journalist that was very honest and said he had only had basically 3 pieces of bread for a week. Those were his 3 meals. And I don't know, it really hit me kind of on a personal level as I was driving back and forth and going to these services of just how, we talk about the numbers, we can talk about the violence, we can talk about, these sort of clips people see and the sort of desperation there and the absolute depravity that's funded by our own tax dollars in the United States. And all I could think about is just how dehumanizing on a real emotional, spiritual, and physical level that is. So I don't know. I haven't talked about this a while on the podcast. I haven't had on as many political people as I would like to lately. But I just want to make that clear to people that, this isn't normal. This isn't just war. This isn't just something, that we hear about on the news and you go, oh, that's awful. This is like one of the most dire and fucked up and truly vile and evil and avoidable circumstances we will ever see in our lives. So I just encourage people that if you're not engaged on this issue, if you're not engaged in sort of an anti-war, anti-imperialist sentiment, to really look into your local area. There's protests still going on all over the place. I was able to go to the protest at the DNC against their complicity in the genocide and selling of bombs to Israel that get dropped on tents and refugee camps. I encourage you to do that. They're all over the place. You can still find them at the link of ceasefiretoday.com, although I know a lot of people at this point, including myself, would say a ceasefire is not enough. But you can still find all the links of where you can find protests, of where you can put pressure on the politicians, see what you can do at this late stage to help out. And above all, just stay informed and stay objective, and just keep things, keep things in mind from a human to human basis of just how absolutely reprehensible this is, how avoidable this is, and that things need to change and the world needs to really coalesce to stop this from happening and to de-escalate immediately. So sorry to be on a soapbox for like 3 or 4 minutes there, but it was just something I was thinking about the last week or so, and I just didn't really know where else to put it. So I guess you guys get in the intro of this. Sorry to Hey I Love You for putting something heavy in the intro, but again, go to ceasefiretoday.com. More importantly, go to find local protests, find local organizations in your area, and get involved, because apathy is inexcusable at this point. We don't get into that in this episode. This is a music-based episode where we break down Yeah, I Love You's fantastic album. I want to really, again, shout out Caleb for coming on so quickly. We got this together in a couple days, and I've just really enjoyed this record. I've been listening to it nonstop. I really hope you enjoy the conversation and enjoy the record Hey I Loathe You from the band Hey I Love You on Lonely Ghost Records. That'll be out now. And check out the episode with Caleb on the Powerless Podcast. Thanks so much.
So it's so great to be here tonight. It's a fucking awesome ass Wednesday night. Fuck yeah, I'm excited about this.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on. I'm here with Caleb from I'm always bad at like coming up with genres for bands when I start doing this. I would say like emo, synthwave, indie rock, indie pop. I don't know, something to that effect. Really good band. Hey, I Love You out of Montana, right? You guys are out of, is that where you're all out of? Did I get that right?
So actually, well, we were all from Montana up until September when me and Trevin moved to Minneapolis. So now like 3 of us are in Montana and 2 of us are in Minneapolis. So basically you got it right.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yes.
Very
yes.
cool. So Minneapolis and Montana, we got the M's in there. So hopefully I'll remember that by the end. Happy to have you on to start off here in case people are hearing about your band for the first time on this show or aren't overly familiar with what you do specifically in the band. Why don't you just, give your spiel of what you do in the band, and then we'll kind of get things started here.
Of course. Yeah. But before we start that, I just want to, may this podcast be plentiful. Excellent. Okay. Sweet. I just want to do that. But I'm Caleb. I play guitar and I sing in a band called Hey, I Love You. And yeah, that's me. Caleb Haynes. Hello. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy to have you on. I got connected about your band actually from one of the I think he's the overall head of the label you're signed with, Lonely Ghost Records. John is what Super Destroyer.
Yep.
I just kind of he's always someone that helps me like remember to check out like bands I'm not overly familiar with. He's more into like he's more connected with like the sort of emo and synthwave and all that kind of stuff. Scene where I listen to generally when I'm not pulled out of my shell, more like, beat down bands or metal bands and all that kind of stuff. Okay. But I love everything,
Fuck yeah.
And I had hit him up just last week or a couple of weeks ago. I was like, hey, do you have any bands? You guys always have fantastic signs. You always have, you always have stuff coming out, it seems like. Do you have any bands coming out with new material that I could check out that like I could see about hitting them up to do a breakdown of the album? And your band was the first one he sent over. He was like, gotta check it out. It's coming out, now Friday, October 25th. And you're going to like it. You're going to enjoy it. I guarantee it. And it's like, yes, I absolutely did.
Oh, thank you. Shout out John.
Yeah,
John is such a real one.
John is so cool. Yeah, I had him on the show months ago. I got to get him back on because he's just fun to like.
Sick.
He's just fun to rant and ramble with.
You were talking about like metal and like hardcore and beatdown and shit. Have you heard of a new band? I just discovered them today called Big Ass Truck.
Big Ass Truck. I was gonna get to this as a segment I start off the show with like asking you like bands you're listening to or new bands or whatever. So I'm gonna follow this band right now. I'll screenshot this for the recorded version of this. But their headline here, like on Spotify, their header is just Optimus Prime from Transformers.
It's so sick.
I'm gonna check this out immediately after this, though. This is so sick,
fucking awesome.
Their entire bio. Again, I'll screenshot this for people listening if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify. Their entire bio is 12 cylinders of fuck you. That's their
so fucking awesome. I love that shit. But yeah, you were really quick on that. That was crazy. You had that. You were like very quick on the keyboard. I've
been doing this for a bit. Yeah.
You know what's going on. That's so sick. Hell yeah. They're a band I discovered today. I've been listening to Soul Glow. I saw them. So Diaspora Problem was one of my favorite records of 2022. And we don't get shows ever in Montana. Like, no one comes through Montana. But Soul Glow was coming through with Touche Amore, Portrayal of Guilt, and Fine Blue Shimmer, I think. And Soul Glow were the band that played right before Touche Amore. So, like, the second to last band. And, like, fuck, what a fucking awesome set. Like, holy shit. It just reignited my love for that record. So I've been listening to that a lot recently. I chipped my tooth a little bit, which is pretty awesome in the pit. Yeah, it was sick.
I've been there.
Yeah.
Not on the like show aspect, but I was playing a house show one time where I was playing the guitar and singing, in a band, and
the mic
and the mosh pit was getting, where this is going. Yeah, the mosh pit was getting a little too close. Someone went right into my boom mic stand and just knocked the mic right into my teeth and chipped it.
I love that
bleeding in my mouth while I'm screaming, and it was pretty metal for the time.
That shit so much.
Definitely. You're like, this is punk as fuck. That's what's going on right now.
But yeah, I've been listening to a lot of Soul Glow. I'm always listening to Johnny Foreigner. They're like my favorite band right now, and they've been my favorite band for like this past year, I think. But they just put out a record that's really great. What else am I listening to recently? I don't know. A lot of I've been going back and listening to a lot of like I'm listening to a lot of the Mega Man 2 soundtrack. I love that.
Nice.
It's very good.
With a little bit of the sounds. like some of the soundscapiness of some of your record a little bit too. Yes. There's a little bit of inspiration there for sure.
Yeah, I'm always listening to like some kind of like video game soundtrack or another. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
You railed off like 3 albums I need to go back and listen to right away, and reminding me that I need to listen to soundtracks. So that's great. I say this every episode, so repeat listeners will be annoyed, but like I honestly do the segment for me to find new bands. I don't care if it's entertaining to anybody else. It's it's just
what have you been
like
listening
Soul Glow,
to?
like it's like Soul Glow. That's a band that I haven't thought about in a while, and I got to go back and listen to the listen to the music.
So fucking crazy. I think that I don't know. It's easy, especially on that. Like, it's easy for someone to just be like, oh, like they're like a they're like a punk band, but they are so much more than that. Like, it's weird how like progressive like some of their songs are. It's kind of like prog punk type stuff, It's so sick. But yeah, what have you been listening to recently? I want to know.
Oh, I never get asked that question. I got my Spotify pulled up here. Let me look at
Yes, let's see it. Let's see it.
For me, I've been listening to, there's a band that was on the show. They're from Atlanta, Georgia. They're I actually have to put out the episode this week. I meant to last week and just time got away from me. But band Sister Sleep, they're like a post-hardcore emo band out of Atlanta, Georgia.
Sick.
They put out an EP, it's like a 2-song EP with an MCR cover on the end of it for 3 songs.
Okay.
Just last Friday, I think.
Which song? Which MCR song?
They covered the song they covered was "The Ghost of You." Was the one that they covered.
That's a good one. That's a sick one to cover.
And their singer has the kind of cadence for it. She's her name's Jamie. She's really got like the vibe for like that kind of music. So I've been listening to that. I've been listening to one song that keeps coming on over and over again, despite I don't really listen to Billy Talent a lot, but there's a song from them from 2019 called Ghost Ship of Cannibal Rats. It's all sort of about the impending climate apocalypse and all this kind of stuff, and they kind of make it in the reference of this weird imagery. It's really
sick.
Good. And then I personally I listen to a lot of political hip hop music and stuff like that when I can. So there's a song called Free Palestine from A-Rob that is that's super good that I've been listening to a lot lately too. So that's kind of my spiel there. All over the place, I guess. I didn't. I said I listened to metal. I didn't plug a single metal band there.
Hey,
post-hardcore rap and
sometimes I really do be like that. I consider myself an emo guy, but I don't there are times where I don't listen to a single emo band ever. You just gotta sometimes get out of that circle a little bit and just
For me personally too, I just have this thing in my brain, especially I have a 35-minute commute to work in my car, and a lot of times I just end up throwing on these same 5 songs over and over that I'm into that day. I don't know what that says about my brain, but it just happens where I just put these songs on and cycle over, and then I'm done with them for a year or two and I don't check them out again. So I don't know, but
to me too. I find myself listening to a lot of podcasts recently. I'll go through phases where I don't listen to as much music, and I'll just listen to YouTube or a podcast. So right now I'm listening to This Is Important, which is I don't know if you've ever seen Workaholics, but that is the Workaholics guys. It's their podcast that they started in 2020. So good, such a good podcast. I would highly recommend it if you're looking for something to laugh at. Very good.
Yeah, I love I listen to too many very serious political podcasts all the time.
Really? Yeah.
So it's good for me to find one that'll make me laugh.
Okay. Yeah, I only listen to serious not serious. I only listen to goofy podcasts.
Yeah, but that's good. That's better for your brain. I'll tell you that much.
I think I could be more informed though. I think I could be more informed on politics and stuff like that.
Between the two of us, we can have a happy medium.
Yes,
there,
exactly.
We're good to go.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
You need both. You need
yes,
both.
You
right?
do. You really do need both.
Well, thanks for going over that again. It's always fun to break the ice that way a little bit, and I've got those artists saved instantly on my Spotify for me to check out the albums.
Fuck yeah.
That'll probably cover my commute for the next couple of days. So appreciate it.
Hell yeah.
What I thought we would do next is kind of dive into, before we get into the record, if you don't mind, I would kind of ask you, I tend to ask people a track by track, even if you didn't necessarily write all the lyrics, just your take on it, what the song means, and also the songwriting process, all that good stuff.
Yes.
But I know that this is your second full-length LP. You made sure to confirm that with me earlier, which I really appreciated.
Yes, of course.
And I was able to listen through the record a bunch. Obviously really enjoy it. Like I said earlier, very eclectic, very dynamic, which I always love for a full length.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
But I do know, and you said this on your socials when Disconnected came out. I'm trying to remember when you guys actually released it. September.
Yes.
That was the first song you had released, new song you had released in 2 years, right? So that's what was said, so I guess I'm just curious, coming out of the gate with this album, putting out a single last month, putting out the album in 2 days from the recording of this. What was there a change up for the band? Was there kind of this like slow period for you? Were you playing shows a lot? Was it people were very busy and it was rough? Like, if it's personal, don't worry about it. But what I guess what's the first of all, on the positive side, how does it feel to have music coming out after 2 years? That's got to be a big.
It's fucking awesome. Let me tell you, it's so incredible. It's such a great feeling.
But also in line with that, like why, for a band of your guys' size, for a band that I think is in this DIY space where people, it seems like a lot of times want to just rail songs out like chronically, like EPs every year or whatever the case may be. Why was there such a long span of time between your last release and this one?
So it was actually, obviously like, life happens, like stuff like, people get busy and whatnot. But I think actually like this was a little bit more deliberate. So our last album we made really fast. Like we wrote the songs really fast. We recorded, mixed it, got it mastered like really fast. I think like in the span of like 2 months, maybe even like, yeah. So like a really long time. And I think that like this time we just wanted to really take our time and just make something that just really focus hard on the music, and like, rough draft everything out and then go back and edit. And so we actually had a whole other album's worth of material before this one. Yeah. That we totally scrapped and in favor of this one. Cause we just kept like, cause you're right. Like we're constantly writing music. Always we're constantly writing music. Like even when we're like hanging, like if some of us are just hanging out totally unrelated to music, sometimes, like a lot of times what'll happen is we just start making music anyways. So we were constantly just making like songs that we liked more and more than the last, until we finally came up with this batch of songs where we're like, this is it. This is the record. Like this is the best that we can do, I think, with our capabilities right now, with who we are right now, with our lives right now. This is like the peak of that moment, I think, for us. So yeah, like it was pretty deliberate. Like we really wanted to really write something that we could be proud of. I think like playing, like fucking 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. I think that was like the real goal, was just to like really hone in. And, I don't know. I think we accomplished that. We're all pretty proud of what we've done.
Well, I think and good on you all, especially in this age of, I say this a lot on the show, but in this age of like sort of like music as content, sort of with like the streaming era, people's attention spans and like sticking on a band's release are shorter. People don't have that out, with newer bands especially, or, bands of, I shouldn't say newer, you guys aren't new, but I mean, like a band that's, what I mean? Like a band that's like at your guys' level where you have probably like a solid, I just checked, your biggest listeners are actually, I'm in Illinois. Your biggest listeners, at least on Spotify, are in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
You've got listeners, all over the country here, and I'm sure some, abroad. You're kind of at this space that's, I think is really tough for a lot of bands where like you're big enough that people expect things out of you, but like, there's nothing easy about it yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no kidding.
Which is a fortunate problem to have when you love making music and being in a band, but also like such a, there's a lot of, I guess a lot of frustrations that come with that. And part of that is, I think people always want to, like I said, churning out songs. This is my long-winded way of saying the fact that you all had a whole album or an album's worth of material that you're like, this isn't good enough, we're going to scrap that and go back to the drawing board. I think that's a good thing. I think that's like, you're not putting out stuff because you want people to to catch onto it for a couple of weeks or something. You're not putting out something for sort of like some TikTok clips or whatever, and then just kind of move on. Like you're really putting a lot of effort and a lot of intent on what you're releasing.
Thank you, Brandon.
So that makes a lot of sense. That's really cool, and I appreciate that about the band. That's really great.
Thank you.
When it comes to you referenced that your first album, which came out, I just had this pulled up, and of course I exited out of it, but it came out in. I got to exit out of the Workaholics podcast here real quick. Where here we go. It is here's your albums. It was Psychokinetic Love Songs back in 2022. This is the one that you said you recorded, mixed, mastered, all that in like 2 months. So very quick. So you've already alluded to a little bit of the difference, but what was the difference for you all, songwriting wise, production, mixing, all that, just everything that went into it, artistically? What was sort of the difference for, Hey, I Loathe You, the upcoming album, and your previous one? Like, what was kind of the similarities and differences there for you all?
So, the biggest difference is that like, Hey, I Loathe You is like 100% a collaborative effort. Like we were all in the room writing all these songs together for the most part. Like sometimes, someone would be like missing for a band practice, you know, but for the most part, it's like all of us were in a room writing this stuff together. Sorry, I have a broken drumstick in my hand for some reason, but
no, it's okay. No,
it's my talking stick. So like the last effort, like the last album, like it was like, maybe like me and like Steven or Trevor would be in a room, like, and we would write a song, and then like everyone else would put their parts over it, or something like that would happen. Like it was like, or I would come in with like the skeleton of a song and be like, all right, everyone just put your parts over this. So like something like that would happen. But like for this one, it's like just all of us just being like 100% like all in on it. Like I think that like Trevin put it, our lead guitarist Trevin put it the best when he said that like this album feels like all of our voices are in it, you know, like literally all of our voices are in it, but also like, you know, like metaphorically all of our voices are in it. And that's like the biggest difference. And I think that like thematically, and we can get into this, you know, when we go into the track by track, but thematically, like the big difference too is that like the Psychokinetic Love Songs was like about, I was just like in a very scary like mental state. Like I was like having like panic attacks every day. And like, it was just, I don't know, it was just, you know, 2021, scary time for everyone to be alive. Right. And so like, that's like what I was writing about. Like basically on every song on the album was like me being like, oh shit, things are really fucking scary right now. My brain really sucks. But Hey, I Loathe You is a lot like, I've kind of like gone over that in a way. And I'm like, moving on to just like things that are happening. I can like focus now on like things that are happening around me, and like things that like make me unhappy, and things that like, you know, whether it be like the way that people are treating me or the way that people are treating others, or like just things happening in the world right now, or like the way that I see myself. And so like the Hey, I Loathe You, and this is how it got its name, basically, is that it's just like a lot angry of a record. It's a lot mean. It's a lot, I don't know. Yeah, it's a really spiteful record. Well, yeah, kind of. It's like, it's more of like a
like cathartic.
Yes, very cathartic release without emotions. You know, it's like, it's getting over the, like, exercising those emotions, and then like stepping back and like being able to be like, whew, all right, that's over, you know? And
yeah.
You know, being thankful for that, you know?
I love that the title, it's very cool to me that the title of the album itself is sort of the antithesis of the band name. Like usually I don't talk about people's band names because like that's one of the worst questions people ask in interviews is like, where did your band name come from? But I love the kind of like contrast between your literal band name and the name of the album that felt very obviously like focused, you know what I mean?
You.
That was yeah. So that was cool. I like that little tip. It made me double check that I was calling, you know, because everything I see is Hey, I-L-Y, you know, and I was like, and I read everything and just listen. I don't really like watch other interviews that often,
right?
So I was like, I need to really double check on the website that I'm saying their name out loud correctly before I do this thing. Because I was like, is this a self-titled record? Am I wrong on what this means? And then no, I was correct. So
I think that was kind of like part of the goal. I think is to like make outsiders maybe be like, does "Hey I Love You" does "Hey Why" actually stand for "Hey I Loathe You"? Like, what's up with that? I think we thought that'd be really funny.
Love it.
It's sweet.
I love
Hell
that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Fuck
yeah.
Can I swear, by the way? I've been swearing this whole time.
Yeah,
you
can swear. Yeah, no worries. I don't. Yeah, I most of the listeners for this go on Spotify, and there's like no issue there with any censorship, so we're good to go.
Yeah.
So yeah. Thanks for going over all that. That's really cool. Another thing that I wanted to kind of circle back to that you just said was that it's very collaborative. That all of these songs, everything from impending dissolve of "Hey I Love You" all the way to end credits, that like for the most part it's a collaborative effort, which is not something I even when bands are overall collaborative, which most of the bands that I have on are, especially like the sort of DIY space, everybody has a role. You have to fill in a band to keep going. But usually there will be like a member or two that are, sitting at a DAW, like recording, putting in some rough programming. Then they get together with the band, the bass player, the drummer, or the whatever other guitar player, keyboardist or whatever might throw their own spin on it or record it their own way. But there's like a primary person or two people, right? Depending upon the size of the band. So it is cool that it sounds like, I'm sure maybe some of that went on to some extent, but for the most part, it's all like you're going in a room together. You're writing sort of as old school as you can be in 2024 with people sitting in a room and jamming and writing stuff out. That's kind of cool. I don't hear that very often when I do these interviews. So is that like something that you all for this release really wanted to do, was have it be fully, or did it just kind of pan out that way from your practice space and stuff like that?
I think a little bit of both. I think that like, I don't know. Because I started this project as like a solo thing in 2021 or maybe 2020, I don't remember. And when I made it a band, like I wanted it to be a band. Like I tried to push really hard for it to be a band. Because the reason why I started playing music as a kid was because of bands, was because of like this team effort. And that's something that I always really loved. And there's nothing, no shade to anyone, but I really hate when like someone's like, you see a band name and then you listen to it, but you can just tell that it's just like solo, I'm just like, I was expecting there to be like a band here, and so like I really wanted "Hey I Love You" to not be like that. And all my favorite bands are full bands, and so I think it was like a little bit of both. Like, naturally this is just like where band practices went, is just like all of us being together and writing together. But I think that like also like that's like a huge thing that we wanted, is just to make the album like super duper collaborative and make sure that everyone's voice is heard this time around.
It kind of goes to what you said earlier as well, where like you're in a room with a bunch of musicians, whether or not you mean for writing to happen, most of the time it does, right? So there's that element as well, right? So that's cool. Again, I really love hearing when there's collaboration, because that's just how you get the most diverse dynamic album, in my view, right? As opposed to there's some people that can just sit there in front of a computer and make a masterpiece all on their own, and good for them. But like,
good for them.
There's something to be said of that collaborative aspect with everybody doing the music. Going from that, then let's go ahead and get into the kind of breakdown of this record. Again, we've got 11 tracks. Very eclectic with like, very all encompassing with like both the length of each song. Some of them are pretty short. There's a few that clock in, I believe, if I look back at the sampler, there's at least two of them that are exactly the same length, 1 minute and 44 seconds. And then you've got your ender that's over 5 minutes long.
Yeah.
So, you're not doing just punk songs. You're not doing just like long, long sort of like narrative masterpiece songs either. You're all over the place with even like the length of these things. But let's go ahead and break down here. And it sounds like, is it fair to say, are you the primary lyricist of the band? It sounds like.
I wrote basically all the lyrics.
Okay.
I think. Yes.
That always just helps me for when I ask the questions on these things as well. So I appreciate that. let's go ahead and get into, we'll go track by track. You can give me things, not just the lyrics. I've said this before, I tend to dive into lyrics pretty quickly. It's something that like I do a lot myself, and I also just find interesting what people choose to write about to kind of make what a song's about. But you can also dive into the musicianship more than we just did overarchingly as well.
Fuck yeah.
But impending dissolve of Hey I Love You. What I put down here was that I liked that it was like a really poppy, catchy instrumental buildup that ended up being, you know, like the chorus kind of follows the synth or lead primarily that starts the song off. I love when bands can do that, where like the chorus progression is catchy enough you can have it on its own to start a song. Really rhythmic pre-chorus. I thought the effects on the vocals, even just as a little detail, were cool. And that the riff post the chorus, even though it's like one chorus because it's a 2-minute long song, the kind of like, you know, the kind of halftime deal, you know, as me that listens to heavier music, I always really enjoy that kind of halftime heavier, like
me too,
head bop, you know? So with all that in mind there, tell me the focal point of this song, what the song's about lyrically, and anything you can say on the songwriting aspect as well.
Yeah, so lyrically this song is about it's about like a look at myself in comparison to the last record, like where I'm at compared to the last record. Which the opening line is, "Am I better now?" Which for me has two meanings. It's like, am I better now, like mentally? Like, am I better? Am I in a better headspace? And then also like, am I like, are we better musicians? Are we a better band? Are we better songwriters? Because I think that like we were all kind of disappointed with how the last album landed with people. And it's not like it landed poorly with anyone at all. Like we were and still are very grateful for the people who like listened to it and enjoyed it, and continue to enjoy it. Like we are endlessly grateful. But I think that like when you came up the way Hey I Love You did, where it's like I dropped an EP that suddenly like everyone was talking about, like it went from like no one on Twitter talking about Hey I Love You to like that day that it dropped, like a bunch of people were talking about it. It gives you like this expectation, I think. And I think that like when that wasn't met, and it might be an impossible expectation, right? Like we were so lucky for that to happen. Like so lucky. Like 1 in a million that would happen. And when it didn't happen again, I think we were all really disappointed in that. And so like that's what that opening line means, is that like that's what that opening line is about. And then like the chorus of the album is just like talking about all the things that I still do, that I used to do that I still do, or that I used to do whenever, at the time that last record was written. Like, you know, like I still am on my phone constantly. I still feel really disconnected from my body all the time. All this stuff. And so it's asking the question like, am I better? I don't know. Like, are things better? I don't know, you know, because like are they even different? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because a lot of the last record was being like the very last sentiment on that last record was me being like, things are gonna be okay, you know. And now that it's like almost 2 years later, I'm like, are they? Like, did everything turn out okay? It's kind of like, I don't know. I'm like a really optimistic guy. I like to think so, but that song is like super like pessimistic, you know, which you got to be sometimes.
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, sometimes you gotta, I mean, if you don't ask yourself those questions, or especially as an artist, if you don't like kind of put pen to paper about it, it's like, that's just really gonna fester and get you somewhere even worse, you know? Yeah. So it's a good creative and productive outlet, you know, that also, I always say this, like, when people kind of will bring up a song and they say they like were pessimistic on it, or were kind of downtrodden in the lyrics or whatever. It's like, yeah, but there's a reason why people love those kind of songs too, right?
That's
like
true.
There's a reason why the sort of like, you know, whether it was nu metal or emo or post-hardcore, you know, all those bands, none of them wrote about like, I mean, some did, but for a long time, it was all about just like emptying out your soul onto paper because you were so frustrated or sad or angry or whatever. And people enjoyed it because they also feel the same way, right? They might not be able to write it down the way you do or whatever, but they identify with what you're saying.
Yeah, so, you got to keep it real.
Gotta keep it real. That's right. That's 100% correct. No, but again, great starter to a record. I think it's cool that you're kind of able to take these, statements of pessimism or questioning or whatever else, and so put them into what I would say is like one of the more like anthemic, which would make sense for the album starter. One of the more anthemic, or like, I don't want to say poppy, but you know what I mean, catchy.
Yeah, for
upbeat,
sure.
Like what songs. I really enjoy that. I always love when people can kind of mix those two things without it just being downtrodden, like musically as well. That gets into Feel Good Forever, which I highlighted a few songs on my notes I have for like the ones that were, first listen before I started taking notes and all that. Like the ones that I would be like, oh, that's my favorite, right?
Oh, sick.
Feel Good Forever is one of them.
Yes.
Love. First of all, your drummer is insane.
Yes,
super
is.
Good.
Yes, he is.
I felt, again, like coming from this sort of like heavier world, having the more like rough, screaming, yelling vocals and a lot of the verses, and then like like sort of the melodic vocals like connected in with that. I thought that was really, really cool. I felt like the music, even like I referenced Billy Talent earlier, saying I didn't really listen to them that much, but I put down some of the guitar driven, like heavier parts of the verses could be anything from Every Time I Die to like
Sick.
Billy Talent sounding, you know what I mean? Like that sort of like cool driving, like bendy, punchy riff. I thought that was really cool coming off of the first song. But I'll stop rambling here like I do too much. Tell me about this song. Tell me about the writing of it. Tell me the lyrical inspiration, all that good stuff.
So this song was a pure, just like I said earlier, just like a pure exorcism of anger. It's just like, it's a total, just like, fuck you song, like I'm just pissed off and I really need to talk about it, cause I don't know. I have a hard time expressing myself in general, like whether it be positive emotions, negative emotions, I have a hard time. It's just the easiest way for me to do that is through music or through art.
Yep.
So that's what this is. It's just like, I feel like I want to punch a wall. So instead of doing that, I'm going to write a song. And I think that like, that's, I don't know. It's just so Trevin came up with that main, like, he came up with that main riff a long time ago. Like, I think that we started like working on a demo for that song in like 2019. Like, so that riff existed before Hey, I Love You. It was actually for a band that Trevin and I are in called Grey Joy. But Trevin didn't use anything. He didn't do anything with it. So we used it in Hey, I Love You. And like every time that song, like that riff just like called to me, like I just need to like, it's just an angry, like in your face fucking riff. But we really liked the idea of contrasting that with this like really poppy, like Beach Boys, kind of chorus. So that's like what we went for, is like this, like, just like super, like, happy, like, like that kind of thing going on. And I think this is a really cathartic release of emotions for sure.
Yeah, that was another note that I had, was that I thought it was cool that the chorus, like some of my favorite bands that can kind of mix the poppy and the heavy, like 4 Year Strong's one that comes to mind for me that I really, really enjoy.
Yeah.
It's been around for a long time, where, it has a major feel in the chorus with, like a major key feel where like a lot of the rest of the song feels very minor, very like, like you said, angsty, angry, all that good stuff. And I just thought that was like a cool mix between those two. I like that you referenced Beach Boys there after that sort of riff. I think that fits really well. So yeah, very cool, very dynamic, very cool. Like how much it switches up between those two sort of feels throughout the song. I thought that was really cool.
I appreciate it. Sorry, I'm just grabbing my charger. Yeah,
no, you're good. You're good. After that, we've got the third track is Worry. This one was a little bit more, I liked the little like Nintendo, I don't know like the correct terms, but like the Nintendo synth intro or like bitwave kind of stuff. Felt like the song was more of, in general, like emo indie rock revival feel, and like the verses and stuff like that. And then I thought like overall like the guitar tones and stuff like that were really cool in it. And kind
Thank
of again
you.
a change up from the first two big time.
Thank you.
So what is just tell me about this song. What's the opus, onus, whatever the correct word is there, of the third track?
Yeah, so this song actually also predates Hey, I Love You. I originally wrote the song in like 2019 when I was feeling super emo. And the 2019 version of it still exists on SoundCloud. Like people can go find it, which is crazy. Sorry, I'm wrangling my cat right now.
No, you're good. You're good.
And I'm glad that no one has found it yet because it's like really bad. But so this song was about a relationship that I had that was like really confusing. And it kind of messed with my perception of like what love is. And it wasn't anyone's fault. I think it was really confusing for both parties. And we knew like deep down that we cared about each other, like a lot. We knew that was for sure. But we didn't really know anything beyond that, you know? Like, so, and it was just really rough for everyone involved. And so like, that's what this song is kind of about, is me being like, you know, like, I know that we really care about each other. Like, it's just like me being like, I care about you so deeply. And I'm just having trouble. Like, my feelings are very confused right now. Your feelings are very confused right now. This is a very confusing time for us both. And that's like the ending. It's kind of buried a little bit. It's very shoegazy, that like huge ending.
Yeah.
But that's like what we're all saying, is that like, you know, is like we're saying just like I love you, because like sometimes, you know, like that's all you can say in like situations like that, where it's just like, you know, I don't know what's going on. I do know one thing is that I love you a lot, and I'm very glad that you're in my life. Yeah, so that's like kind of like what that song's about.
I like that. I'm somebody that sometimes shies away a little bit from those sort of like, you know, I think the scene has been inundated for a long time with you know, relationship songs, or like,
yes,
because a lot of times it can delve into sort of some toxic lyrical content, you know,
yes,
especially in emo and post-hardcore and all that from the 2010s. Boy, there's a lot of lyrics I don't think I could even like cite back, you know.
Yeah,
but I think it's good that there's, I think especially now with more recent releases of bands kind of like talking about these things more in a more complex and nuanced fashion, like what you're talking about with this one.
right.
One thing, it's like it's less toxic. It's not toxic. It's, you know, you can still talk about hardships of relationships and stuff, and also it's I don't know, it's more realistic to what the world's like.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, so that's a good, I mean, I don't know, that's kudos to you for finding a way to make a song that way well, and all those good things.
Thank you.
Again, great song. Next one, Wind Up Toy. It's another one of the ones I highlighted for one of my favorites on the record.
Sick.
Really loved the synth intro. Thought the vocal delivery was very somber. I think if I remember right, this might be the one. Is this the one where one of the other vocalists in your band has more of a prominent
this
role?
Is the one that Sky sings lead for. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I don't know if you've ever heard. You should check this band out if you haven't before. There's a Chicago band that the feel of this band reminded me of, or this song reminded me of, called OK Cool. They're kind of like an indie emo alternative band. Yeah, I had them on the show like over a year ago now. But that's what I thought. For some reason, I thought of them when I heard this song. I was like, all right, this, like, I could see this like really working on a bill. You know what I mean? Like that kind of a deal.
That's sick.
I thought the drums added a cool rhythmic space in the verses. It kind of gave a little bit more of a pounding feel to it. And then the other thing I said is the kind of like climax of the song with that really like crazy tom heavy drum build up with like the kind of more like chunky guitars. I thought that was a really cool thing to add into a song like this that otherwise feels more of like a somber, in some ways, track. You know, the lead guitar, the Midwest like emo leads sounded cool, mix it with all that, you know, that's sort of like I don't want to say American football, but you know what I mean, like that kind of deal.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
I thought all of that was like a cool encapsulation into like a a relatively like like a 3.5 minute long song. You packed in a lot of different aspects of your all sound into it. So again, after all my rambling there, tell me about this song, what it's about, all that good stuff.
Well, thank you. First of all, I really appreciate it. I really appreciate the rambling. Like it's really awesome. You have very insightful observations, I think. Like observations that like when you say them, I'm like, oh yeah, that is a thing that's in that song. That's cool. But yeah, sweet. This song is another like I guess like burst of cathartic anger. But this time it's a little bit like there's a little hint of sadness in there where it's like it's basically like watching someone that you used to be really close with, that you used to really love a lot, sort of slowly turn into this person who just is like just horrible to themselves and horrible to other people, and like and hurt you really bad. And like on one hand, you really want to express that hurt and be like, "Fuck you," But on the other hand, you also really want to be like, "Man, we used to be mad chillin'," like. We used to be best friends. And I miss you. And I hope that like someday you can come back to this person that you once were, because I hate to see you destroy yourself like this. And I hate to see you destroy other people like this. And I know that like deep down inside that's not who you are, and I just hope that you get back there someday, That's like what this song is about,
That makes, again, I say this a lot but it just means it's good songwriting. A very relatable topic there, to say the least,
cool.
right? Like not much, not much more to say about that other than like especially as people age out of your adolescence or you're getting more into adulthood, like that kind of era, you can see that kind of change in people a lot.
Yes.
And I think that's definitely like a very universal feeling that most people have felt in their lives.
That's
right?
always great to hear about our music, is that like people will be like, I relate to that.
Yeah, I think as I've started doing these sort of album breakdowns more with bands over the past year, instead of just kind of asking them, where did music come from for you, and those kinds of things, I've kind of found that like that's I mean, it's kind of an obvious assessment, but when you can write music that's both individual to you but also write it in a way that it connects with people, to where you're not doing generic lyrics, right, but you're also not like making something so hyper specific that nobody knows what the fuck you're talking about. You're able to do that kind of like, you're able to do those things in a way that like your music's unique, but it's also connecting with a lot of people. I think that's the mark of good songwriting, regardless of the content of it.
Oh,
do you get what I mean? Like I think that's like and you guys, you nailed it. So good stuff there. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Going on to the next one, because I don't want to keep you for 5 hours here with my talking too much.
I ain't got nothing going on. I can be here all night.
Sounds great. Track 5, Gelato Skip. Did I put that in here correctly?
Gelato Skip.
Yeah, Gelato Skip. Okay. This one's, I think this is one of the ones that's under 2 minutes.
Yes.
Right. There's a lot packed in to an under 2 minute long song.
This
here.
song is so
it's primarily instrumental. I think it's cool though. There's a lot of dynamics in it. There's like it feels like if it's not an abrupt tempo change, there's an abrupt like feel change between like the very first section that's primary. Yeah. That's what I figure. But sometimes a feel change is so big that it feels like a tempo change. So that's why I put that in my notes for plausible deniability on my part. This one I guess would be more on the instrument side, because it's like pretty bare bones on the vocal side, right? But either way, where does this song come from for you all? You said it's a stupid song. Where does that come from for you? Just kind of speak to this one. I thought it was an interesting track.
This is like, I think maybe the one example on this entire record that was just written me and Connor. And then everyone else put their parts onto it. This is the one example of that happening, because Connor and I were just like writing a song. Like we were practicing. We were just doing a practice with him and I think, because like no one else could do it. That specific week. And I just was playing around with this riff, and then we wrote this song in like 10 minutes. and like we just kept adding like pieces onto it, and we're like, this is so stupid. Like, but the end result is like ended up being like, I think it's like one of my favorites on the entire album. It's just so goofy and like heavy. It's absurdly heavy for no reason. I don't know. I like it a lot. Yeah,
I love that. Yeah.
Lyrically, this song is about it's actually about a relationship that I witnessed with two mutual friends, and one of them had cheated on the other, and it was like really crazy and toxic. And yeah, that's what that song is about. Very, very simply.
That'll do it. Yeah, that'll make things toxic. That's for sure.
Seriously.
You know, and again, something especially from like from the friend aspect, you know, of you not being in that instance, but like who hasn't experienced that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So again, good connecting one, and overall just like a cool like mostly instrumental track that, like you said, goes heavy in a cool way. And you know, when you're talking about side A and B of like a record, it's kind of like a cool you know, I guess maybe the next song would be that, but like kind of a cool end piece, like almost like the first half of the album.
Yeah,
you know,
I think this is when like the energy kind of switches a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. Going to the next one, Body Dysmorphia, which from the, you know, I didn't have the lyrics on hand, but from the lyrics I could gather when I was taking my notes or listening to it, the title felt pretty apt to the topic. I thought that, you know, the song overall, with obviously you're trying to convey this topic, felt more somber. I felt like that probably agreed with the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
But the other note I had instrumentally was that the guitar solo was cool. So and the other thing I wanted to ask was the sample at the beginning. What is that? What is that sample that you have at the beginning of the song?
So I don't even remember who it's from, but okay. Not every sample that you hear. But a good chunk of the samples are just like random shit that I saw on Instagram Reels that I'm like, oh,
that's how it goes. Yeah.
I'm like, this can relate to the song. And so yeah, just like this and it's a total, like the original TikTok is a joke. Is her being like, whenever I think about eating, or the secret to how I stay skinny or whatever is like, whenever I think about eating, I think about him being with another woman or something like that. And it was like totally supposed to be funny. But I was like, yo, what if I just cut off that and just like have it like be like kind of like open-ended? You know, it's like you don't really know what she's like. If you didn't have that context, you don't know what she's about to say. Like she could be saying anything, and it could be like super serious. Like it sounds like serious when you put it in the context of the song, I think. So yeah, that's what that is.
It does.
Yeah. And so I just wanted to create that out. I think it's always fun just to take something out of its original context and put it into a new context.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like you said, like pretty self-explanatory. This song is about my struggles with like eating disorders, specifically like bulimia, which I've been clean from a long time now. Fuck yeah.
Congrats.
But yeah, like this song is another one that predates Hey I Love You. So Connor and Sky and I, who are in Hey I Love You, we had a band in 2020 called Antique Dreams. And this was originally an Antique Dreams song, but it was originally like, it's funny that you bring up like the lyrics like matching well with the song, because originally the song was like way faster and it was like really punk, and like the main riff was like dun, dun, dun. It sounded like Belt by Say Anything.
Okay.
And it was this like really fast pop punk song. And I rediscovered it when we were writing this album, and I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like these lyrics feel to me like they're really important to me, and they feel really emotional to me, at least. Because it's something that I struggled with so long. And so like that's what you know, that's why like I was like, we should like slow this song down and like fucking like make it like really like dynamic, and like when it explodes, it explodes. And actually, funny story about Trevin's solo that you bring up. So that solo, Tyson Kreider at Butt Ruckus Studios, who recorded the guitars for the album, he had this idea where Trevin recorded like 10 different solos basically, and they were all like improvised. And then what Tyson did is he pieced together all the best parts from each solo to make one really sick solo. Super cool.
That's super cool. And also just like a little production and mixing trick for people that aren't in bands. Most of your favorite guitar solos are also put together that way.
I didn't know. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Tyson showed us, I was like, whoa.
Like, I don't listen to this band anymore for reasons that'll become obvious when I say the name, but As I Lay Dying was like a big band for me when I was growing up. And one of the solos on the album An Ocean Between Us was one of my favorite solos I had ever heard when I was really getting into like playing shreddy guitar stuff. And then I found out, again, the guy could play it live, but then I found out just through interviews that they're like, oh yeah, that was like 6 different solos we mashed together.
So
produced the best part.
Funny.
And the guy said like the worst part of it though, like, and I wonder like how this would be for your other guitarist, but he was like, I realized like there was one bit where it was on like the 2nd fret over here on the D string, and I had to go all the way up to like the 15th fret on the high E string in like 1 second, and so I just had to practice that slide for like 2 months.
I bet.
And I just like that was
in the solo for Trevin. I bet.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like when you realize that, you're like, that's really cool that they can kind of find a way to blend the best parts of to like make it the guitar solo its own thing. But trying to play that live, fuck that.
Yeah, fuck that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just go noodle. No one's gonna notice. It'll be fine. You know? Well, going from that one, we go to Disconnected, which is the single that you released in September. So again, the kind of foray for people to like this new iteration of the band with your new album. While we're on that first, what was the choice behind picking this one as the single people would hear ahead of time, and then kind of go into the song? Because in general, I get why it was a single on just like the listener end. I thought the instrumentation might be the highlight of the record instrumentally overall. Very dynamic song, very catchy hook with the synth. So I do understand why it was but a lot of these songs could have been the single. So I guess like, what was the choice behind that? And also just kind of break the song down for me.
I'm very glad that you said that, because that any song on this, like a lot of songs on this album could be a single, because we had such a hard time picking singles, like for this album. Like we had such a real struggle. And we only really figured out which songs we for sure wanted to be the singles, like I think like a month before actually dropping a single. So like, but I think we, deep down inside, like all of us knew that we wanted Disconnected to be either the first or second single. Because like, it just feels like the summary of the album in a way. Like, it just feels like it's just perfectly captures what Hey, I Love You is supposed to be and what this album specifically is supposed to be. You know, just like really fucking like, really like balls to the wall pace, like fast in your face, being like, hey, what's up? We're Hey, I Love You. You know, like, yeah, just like bunch of music changes, very dynamic, very in your face. Yeah, so that's kind of like, I think that's why we picked the single, and it's just, we love the song, like we just really like, we really like playing it, and yeah, it just felt right, I think. And this song is like super self-explanatory. It's just about social media addiction and, you know, just consuming so much knowledge. Did you know that, like, humans, we are not supposed to be consuming this much, like, anything, you know, like this much knowledge at all.
Yeah.
And just like, it's just like, it fucks with your brain, I feel like. And I feel like it fucks with my brain really heavy. And so like, yeah, that's what this song is about. I should really start reading a book or something, you know? I should really open a book or, you know, go outside.
You and the rest of the world, though, right? But I mean, that's actually like legitimately true. They've talked about, you know, even since like the MySpace days, how like it's totally changed people's dopamine levels, like in their brains, right? Like it's literally like, you know, older people or people that are less connected or whatever else might kind of scoff at it. But like once people start doing that, it's literally like it changes how your brain's wired. So it's like it's
which is
a real addiction. Like it's
really think about it. Like
yeah, it is. And it doesn't help that they're like tailor made to work on people's like addictive tendencies, just like a, you know, like a slot machine, you know?
Yeah, it's bad.
So yeah, I mean, most people to varying degrees understand and feel that one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting to the tail end, the last 4 tracks of the record. We've got Dev Hell, which I thought this one was maybe the most chaotic song in a good way. Felt like it had the most hardcore elements to it. Definitely like a sort of like song live, if you played it live, to mosh to for sure. Clocking it at 2 minutes and 16 seconds, which feels right up the alley for like hardcore elements as well. Go ahead. Like, why, to me overall, this one felt like the heavy song on the record, other than obviously, I'm drawing a blank. What was the other one that's more Feel Good Forever is kind of the other one that has more of those like yelly elements to it and that kind of like heavier side of your band. So what's the focal point of this song, and is this something you all just kind of enjoy doing and just want to throw a couple of songs on in this vein, or why is this one significantly, at least in my view, significantly more heavy and chaotic than maybe some of the other songs on the record?
I think that like the main goal when we write Hey I Love You music is to write something that we would want to listen to, and a lot of us, like, we all like hardcore a lot. Like, we all like hardcore bands. Like, sometimes I went through a phase where whenever I was bored, I would just throw on just like a Hate 5/6 live video and just watch it. Because I was bored. So I ended up watching a lot of Hate 5/6 videos. And I love moshing so much. I love that shit so much. And I love like stage diving and crowd surfing and crowd killing. Sometimes I don't love being like, I don't always love being crowd killed. But sometimes I do love, I love it. I just love like that whole energy. And so I wanted there to be at least one song on the album that had that if we played it live could bring that kind of, when we play it live, that could bring that kind of energy. And this ended up being that song. I was very inspired by a song called Bleach by a Minneapolis local band called Haze Gazer. That's where like the inspiration to this riff came from. And I just wanted to write just a really quick, angry song. And originally, so this song was originally called Coward with a Guitar. And it was originally like very political. And I'm really bad at writing political songs. I think I realized. I was looking over at these lyrics and I was like, these are so like, it's just like, it's saying something, but it's not saying it in a way that's like, it sounded like a slogans, it sounded like slogans, and I was like, this is just not, if I'm going to make something political, I want it to be really like of the heart, and like something that like I can say thoughtfully, I guess more thoughtfully. And so this song just ended up being like basically like an all out anger song, I'm really mad at this thing that happened to me and I'm going to let it out. But then like at the end, it ended up being like a lot more positive because there's that line that and I think this is like my favorite line on the entire record at the very end that we all sing, and it goes, I will never hurt the way I've been hurt. And it's just, that phrase is just very empowering, because it's like, if you're mistreated by someone, sometimes, like, if nothing else, it feels very good to be able to look at that and say like, well, at least I know that I will never put someone through this kind of pain, in this way. Like sometimes it just feels really empowering to be able to say that,
Hey, and you say it's not political, but you can extrapolate that message to a lot of things, So I always go back to everything. If you dive into it, everything's political, and that's a good message to have, whether it's personal or looking at the world. That's a good one. Yeah.
Sweet.
I mean, that's my dumb thoughts on things there for a sec. But again, good track, like it. Doesn't at 2 minutes with it being significantly, I would say significantly heavier than most of the other songs on the album. It doesn't outwear its welcome either. Like, it comes in, does its thing, and gets out, and then you're like, damn, that's a riffy, like, cool track, that goes to what I would call, like, I'm not going to call this, it's not an instrumental or like a interlude track, but it's sort of is.
Yes.
Again,
the energy of an interlude track for sure.
Yeah. Like the other 1:44 song, When I Could Still Feel. Just kind of break this one down for me. What was the thought behind it? Having another quick track on the record, really cool instrumentation.
Thank you.
Just any tidbits or anything you wanna say about the song?
Yeah. So So I had that breakbeat like half of the song for a long time. I just came up with that breakbeat, and my original plan was that was going to be the intro to like a way longer, like way heavier like song. I think we still have the demo for it somewhere. It was called like Ugly. And it had like this riff that was like and it was like a lot more post-hardcore, like Thursday inspired. But then we ended up like not really like finishing that part of the song, and so like, but I really like this breakbeat part, and I was like, what am I gonna do with this? Like I can't figure out a way to put this into the album. I really want to put this into the album. I can't figure out a way to make it make sense. And then I was like, why does it have to make sense? Actually, it doesn't have to. And so I made this like folky kind of like outro to it, where out of nowhere just like clicks and just like bam, now we're in this like forlorn, like the microphones inspired folk thing. So that was like the main idea behind that song. And actually that part was recorded just entirely on my phone.
I love when people can kind of do that, because it kind of inherently adds that effect you're looking for.
Yeah, that lo-fi-ness.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it adds that without having to throw a bunch of plugins on something or trying to like artificially create the noise, you know?
Yeah.
You can just kind of do it by doing like lower resolution recording, you know, on like an iPhone or whatever. Like, I always love that. That's cool that you can incorporate that like meaningfully, you know what I mean?
Thank you. Yeah, and like lyrically too, like I really like when lyricists or writers, I don't consider myself a writer or a lyricist for that matter, I don't know, but I really like when those types of people can say a lot with just like one line. So this was my attempt at doing that, was just trying to tell a story, and it's not very clear what the story is, but just trying to tell some kind of story in just one line. That's what I try to do here.
Yeah, and again, I think it's always a good mark when something, like I said, it's not an it's an interlude, but it's not an interlude, and it doesn't feel like, it feels like it adds a lot to the sort of like the ebb and flow of the album. Yeah. So very, very good track listing approach for where this goes as well, I would say, with the final two songs.
Thank you.
And kind of like a good connector between Dev Hell and the next track, Zombie. This one was another one I thought was really I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. It felt like parts of it felt pretty somber, like especially the beginning of it. Not that's kind of an element, like you said, a little bit in the album overall. But just speak to this one a little bit for me, and tell me, where some of the influences came from and the lyrical inspiration.
So the inspiration for this song came from when I saw the band Spirit of the Beehive. I saw them in Boise at a festival called Tree Fort, and one thing I love about them is that like they have like, they'll be doing a song and then out of nowhere they'll just go into like this crazy noise passage, and then they'll be doing like a whole other song, but like, it's still the same track. So that's something I really wanted to experiment with. And then I was listening to a lot of Duster. I think this was like, I was in my slowcore phase, and so we wanted the first part of the song to be like patience testingly slow, is what Trevin said. He wanted it to be patience testingly slow. So that's where like the main inspiration for this song came from, is just like a song that was like really slow, and then there was like some noise that transitioned into the second part of the song. And so lyrically, this song actually came from an argument. I wouldn't say it was a fight, but it was definitely an argument that I had with a band member. And we talked it out like pretty quickly after we had this argument, but it was this like weird like spurt of anger that I like felt. And I was driving home, and I was just like really mad. And then like while I was driving, I was listening to music, and then I was like, why am I so mad right now? And then I got to be like really like, what in me is reacting this way? Like, why am I reacting this poorly to the situation? And so like Head Like a Zombie is about that, where I'm like, man, my brain don't work too good, basically, is what I'm saying on this record, or on this song, and just me being like, I can be really vengeful, or like not vengeful, but I can be really wrathful sometimes, and I really don't want to be that. Yeah.
It's kind of being like the fly on the wall of your own reactionary impulses.
Yes.
Right? Like
yeah,
that's,
literally. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, we'll just I'll flip it around in the audio and we'll say that you said that. No, I'm just kidding. I'm an asshole.
But AI my voice for saying that.
Yeah, there we go. No, as if I know what I'm doing with all that shit. But no, I mean, again, like very cool that you can kind of take something. Again, it's kind of cool because it's meta, because it's a song that you wrote about an interaction, or at least the thought process came from an interaction that you had with a band member, and then it becomes a song. That's cool. I like that.
Thank you.
Really good song, and like you said, kind of like that kind of almost like 2 songs within a song type deal you can do. Like that's always a cool thing when people can pull that off. I think that's a really fun thing. Some of my favorite songs from some of my favorite bands kind of go in that vein, so that's really cool.
Thank you.
Going to the last one, end credits. This is the one again, which it does make sense to have. I always love when the longest track is the last song on the album, because to me, it's the last song on an album. A lot of times, as long as somebody's like not trying to, sparse out like 5 good songs with a bunch of filler tracks,
right?
Which is not what you guys did here at all.
Oh, thank
you. It tends to be the one that like the band is like, I really don't care if anybody else enjoys this. I'm going to make like the song for me, and I'm going to put like an exclamation point on the end of the record. Right.
Thank you.
And this is what this one felt like to me. It's a song that, again, 5.5 minutes long, doesn't feel 5.5 minutes long. Like I was surprised when the song was over. I was expecting, since I saw the song length initially, I was expecting like, oh, this is going to be like this is going to feel like a bit longer of a track from the other ones, and it didn't. It very much like ebbed and flowed and kept your attention, and next thing you know, it's done, right? In a good way. I mean that in a good way.
Thank you.
So kind of speak to, again, end credits. That's an apt name for an album ender as well. Speak to the influences here, lyrically, songwriting, etc. Just kind of speak to that, and speak to like why this was picked as sort of the album ender, if you can, as well.
Yeah. So a lot of the last record, we would write a song, and then I was thinking really hard about the track list. Basically, that like the whole time we were writing that album. So like we would write a song, and then it'd be like, okay, now we need to write a song that's like this, or like that we can transition into, or transition out of. We weren't like that at all on this album. Like we just wrote songs, but this song was written with the intention of being a closer, because there's this King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard set on YouTube. There's a specific set where they end with The Great Chain of Being, which is this like really like this swung like stoner metal like fucking song, and they play it like lower in that specific set. They play it in like a lower tuning, and I was like, holy shit, like this would be crazy if this is how a record ended, because the record that song is on doesn't end. I think that song is like halfway through the album. And I was like, why didn't they end the song? Like, why didn't they end the record with a song that sounded like this? So like we wrote a song that sounded like that, or at least it starts out sounding like that. Just we think it's like, that's just such a crazy, awesome energy. Just like end the album like this like badass like
yeah.
So we think it's really sick. And then it obviously ends up not being that, because we're Hey I Love You, this is what we do. So lyrically, this song, at first it was just like another one of those like bursts of anger. It was another just like fuck you song. But then like I wanted it to be different. Like I wanted the song to end. I wanted the album to end more ending-ish. I wanted it to be more purposeful. So I kind of wrote the song. I kind of changed the song to be about like moving on. This is the song. This is the part of the album where I'm like, holy shit! Like I've said all this shit. Like I can finally put all of that behind me. I can finally put that shit to rest. And I can finally start working on myself. I can finally move on, be rid of all these things that are troubling me, I guess, I can finally get that shit out of my mind. I just said the same thing like 10 different ways. I apologize.
No, but it does make, and again, you're making something that's from like you're talking about like sort of like a broad mindset, right? Like it's kind of hard to like put it in other words other than that, right? Like, is that, you're talking about, I've said all these things, I've gotten through like pushing all this stuff off of my chest and my brain. And now it's what's next, so to speak, or here's the next chapter and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's a good way to end a record. That's like a great way to end a record. Have the hopeful, we've made it over the hilltop kind of thing, perspective to wrap it all up, right?
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great way to end things.
And I'm really proud of the last line on the record, which is the last line is, "I pray we don't meet in the next life," which is it's a reference to how Radiohead ends Kid A. At the last song of that, the last line of that album is, I will see you in the next life. And this, we changed it kind of, to be like, no. But that's like kind of like a look inward, where I'm being like, I hope that the person I am right now is not someone that I will ever be again, because I did not like who I was at the time of writing this record. I was a very angry person, I was a very angry person. And I think that it was a result of a lot of things that were happening around me and to me specifically and to my friends, like I said earlier, that was causing me to be that way. But yeah, it was just that is just saying goodbye to that part of me, yeah.
Absolutely. And again, very relatable, very universal experience. Anybody that's had growth or had hindsight or any of those things can connect to. Overall, again, this record, a lot of dynamics. If anyone's into anything from indie rock to pop music, to pop punk, to hardcore, to emo revival stuff, whatever the case may be, there's something in this for you. I would just say the whole record's for you, but I listen to a lot of things, so that's but I would just, anyone that hasn't heard it at this point, that's hearing this, should really check out this record. Again, I said my highlights on this from the first couple of goes, because you're nice enough to send the record over ahead of time, or Feel Good Forever, Wind Up Toy, and of course Disconnected. But every song, I should have probably put Dev Hell too, because that's right up my alley. But all in all, really great eclectic record. Thanks for going over this with me,
dude.
I really appreciate your time on all this.
So awesome.
Yeah, this is what I like to do. I think it's fun to kind of break these things down. And as people, find out about your music later, and they find, they can always do a deep, find a deep dive of it at a later point and all that kind of stuff. I always think it's a good thing to just have in the internet archives as well, to kind of break these things down. So I guess I've just got a few quick questions for you before I let you go after breaking all this down. I really appreciate your time. One, just, what else is going on with the band after this record has come out? Do you have anything going on as far as what you have to do with the rollout, what you're doing as far as shows go, etc., coming up in the future? You can also just plug where people can find your band and all those good things. Again, all those things will be in the notes as well for anyone seeing this on the recorded side of things. And then the third thing I always have is I play a song at the end. The record will be out when this comes out on the recorded side of things. So I'll have to have you pick the song you want to play at the end of this. So again, just plug what's going on with the band going forward after the release. What were the other things? Oh, plug the socials and then pick a song.
Sick. Sorry. Don't mean to yell.
You're good.
But for the future of the band, hopefully we'll play some shows. We're definitely going to keep writing music and keep putting out music. It's just that this move has made things really hard.
Yeah.
Which
of course.
I think we all thought it was going to happen. It's going to make things hard. But we would really love to open on a cool tour. That's I think one of our bucket list things as a band is open for a really a band that we think is really awesome on tour. And so hopefully we'll have the opportunity to do that. If anyone out there is listening, please. And yeah, we're just gonna keep writing music and keep being weird. I've already started writing new demos, and they're just even more strange and eclectic. And there's a lot. They're a lot noisier. There's a lot of a lot more feedback and whatnot. So yeah, everyone look forward to that. Yeah, you can find us. I think our Instagram is Hey I Love You Forever, and I think that's the same as our Twitter. You can find us on Bandcamp. You can find us on Facebook. We don't use. I think I updated the Facebook maybe once.
Does anybody use Facebook anymore?
No,
I don't
dude.
really think
there is
that's
no
a thing
reason for
anymore,
any
right?
bands to be like doing anything on Facebook. Like literally.
Whenever I check that app too, just on a personal level, I'll like remember to check it, and all my notifications are just spam because I don't use it anymore.
Yeah, literally,
so like,
literally.
Why, you know what I mean? Why am I looking at this? You know,
for real. Yeah, and then the third question. Let's do the first song. Okay, yeah, let's do the very first song.
Yep. So all right. So that's what we'll do. Again, thanks for plugging all that. Again, for anybody listening, all that stuff will also be in the notes down below as well. We're going to start off with the track opener. I think that's a good way to do it. You got to make people go check out the rest on their own after that, right?
Yeah.
We're not going to spoon feed them. We're going to start. We're going to end this off with the first track from the new record, Hey I Loathe You, from the band Hey I Love You. With the first track being the impending dissolve of Hey I Love You. So again, Caleb, thanks so much for doing this with me. I really appreciate your time, and I hope the rollout of the release goes absolutely fantastic.
Thank you so much, Brandon. This was really incredible. I am so stoked to be here. This was awesome. You have a really great energy.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. Thanks so much.
Yeah, of course.